So Donald Trump had his bat crap, I don't know, press conference yesterday. I don't even know what you would call it. And one of the big topics right now, and maybe I'm a little bit school-centric. What would you call that? Because obviously this is a big question about, you know, what's going to happen with my kids. And LA and San Diego, two of the biggest school districts in the country, have already said they're going to be remote learning only, distance learning only. In New York, Cuomo Monday basically set up some guidelines so that at least there's some predictability. If I think it is like the infection rate is under 5% for 14 days, then schools can open. If it goes up above like 9%, then they have to close immediately. So at least there are parameters, right? I mean, there's some guidelines, and there's also very strict guidelines as to like what has to happen. Schools need to sanitize themselves every night. There has to be adequate PPE. There has to be.
Would you feel
distancing.
Safe with that? Would you do that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, put that aside. Like, I'm
not
sure.
trying to put you on the spot. No, I'm just curious.
In all honesty, I'm not 100% sure. It's not even, you know, for me, it's not even just a question of like, do I feel safe? It's like the standard I am willing to, you know, with one child is different than the other, because I think like younger children, I think the risk is a little bit less and the need is a little bit greater than the older child. Mm-hmm. Putting that aside, knowing the clarity you get from these guidelines and why you have them, listen to what Mike Pence says the White House doesn't want happening and how bat crap crazy this is.
Of facilities. But to be very clear, we don't want CDC guidance to be a reason why people don't reopen their schools. We're going to respect whatever decisions are made on campuses like this across the state of Louisiana. All of us are going to put the health of our kids, of our faculty, and families first. But as the governor said, we believe we can do this. We know that the risk the coronavirus presents to people under the age of 18 is very low. But we also want to make sure that we have measures in place that protect faculty that may be vulnerable and also prevent kids from exposing others or bringing home the virus. So
we don't want our CDC guidelines to keep any schools closed. I mean, what are the point of these guidelines if they are not there to help people decide we should close this school? Like, what are the point of the guidelines?
Well, I mean, not only is there no point, but I think that this is Republican governance. You know, like this, I mean, when you cut through all the gibberish, you're basically saying, like, even though this is a national and state policy decisions, that basically, like, you know, individuals and administrators should make a decision, try to figure out what's best, throw out the guidelines, and you'll probably feel a lot of pressure to reopen the schools because there's an enormous burden on people already economically.
Right.
And so you'll just end up doing it, even if it isn't safe. And that's where we're trying to get policy-wise anyways. You know, on a really brief tangent.
We don't want you to, we don't want you in any way to be guided by our guidelines.
Exactly, because we don't ultimately, do we want guidelines? I mean, ultimately, do Republicans want a CDC?
No. And that's why, in fact, the Trump administration has basically said, like, no more giving data to the CDC, because all they're doing is saying, hey, there's a fire going on. No more reporting the fires to the CDC, because they're just going to tell us there's a fire happening. And we're just hoping that nobody's going to smell the smoke.
Absolutely. It was a huge controversy when Bolsonaro first got into office, and it pales in comparison with, you know, millions of other things, probably literally, but getting rid of data collected from the Amazon. Like, we're just literally not going to track these things, so there isn't the information available.
Well,
I think that's the policy, and it's consistent. It was what they've done to the EPA.
Today.
It's done. I mean,
the interview today, the Office of Refugee Resettlement when the report came out that there was a list of 700 children who had been separated from their parents, their first instinct was, oh no, we've got to get rid of this list.
We got to stop tracking this stuff. So I think that is, it's a feature, not a bug.
Yep.
I saw a clip and I think he was right. And, it's fine, whatever. I don't even care about the gotcha. But Bill Kristol was saying, Biden's in a really good position. And the thing that we really need to just make sure of in defeating Trump is that there isn't massive voter suppression. And I was just like, I think that's 100% right. And I think that the Republican judges that you've been working to put on the bench for decades, including the ones that gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013 at the Supreme Court, are not going to be hugely helpful in that endeavor. But thanks,
right.
Bill. It was good analysis.
Right, exactly. Bill, here's what I would suggest you do. Take a time machine and erase all of your life's work.